formal apology from the Baptist Union of New Zealand on behalf of its associated churches and any aligned ministries. Background. In 2018, the New Zealand Government launched the Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry, which concluded with the release of the Commission's final report in July 2024. While the Baptist Union of New Zealand and its associated churches were not formally included in the Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry process, there were a number of individuals who came forward directly to the Commission who shared their experiences of abuse and harm. In total, there were 16 disclosures to the Commission related either to one of our churches or a ministry associated with one of our churches. The disclosures made to the Commission make it clear that we, as Baptist Union of New Zealand associated churches, also need to give careful consideration to the Abuse in Care Royal Commission's findings and recommendations alongside other churches in New Zealand. The Baptist Union of New Zealand acknowledged the final report of the Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry and the seriousness of its findings at the time it was publicly released. Since then, the Baptist Union of New Zealand has brought together an Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry response group tasked with the reviewing of all reports from the Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry and making recommendations on the changes that are required across the churches that are part of the Baptist Union of New Zealand. It has been our desire to give careful consideration to the findings of the Abuse in Care Royal Commission of Inquiry so that our response to it is appropriate given the gravity of the abhorrent harm that has been perpetrated in Christian churches and their ministries, including Baptist settings. People who are part of our faith communities and associated ministries should be safe and cared for. We acknowledge that the work of hearing from people who experienced abuse and harm is still in fact ongoing. However, there is also no doubt that there is a need to recognise the reality of what we know so far. Therefore, we as the leadership of the Baptist Union of New Zealand would like to offer this formal apology on behalf of its associated churches and any aligned ministries. Apology. First and foremost, we would like to offer our sincere apology to those who experienced abuse while they were in the care of one of our Baptist Union of New Zealand associated churches or a ministry aligned with a Baptist Union of New Zealand associated church. These Baptist Union of New Zealand associated churches or ministries have gravely failed in their duty of care to people. People were harmed physically, emotionally, sexually, and spiritually. Children, young people, and adults were not protected. Action was not taken to address abuse that occurred. This should never have happened. We are profoundly sorry for what has occurred within these Baptist Union of New Zealand associated churches or ministries. In particular, we want to especially acknowledge those who were in the care of the Manurewa Children's Home. Taking responsibility for children and young people in particularly vulnerable circumstances should have been met with the very best care, but we know that there were a number of people harmed in this home. You were failed, often many times over, and across an extended period of time. We apologize particularly to you. We know that the impact of abuse has been severe across people's lives. Their health, livelihood, relationships, and faith have been affected. The damage has been profound, irreparable for some people, and its impacts have continued throughout their lives. We are aware that abuse is not something people experienced historically, but a reality that impacts their lives ongoingly. For this continued harm, we are sorry. We acknowledge too the wider impacts of the abuse of people who were in the care of one of our Baptist Union of New Zealand associated churches or ministries. In many cases, there has been a significant impact on people's spouses, children, friends, and community. We wish to express our sincere remorse for the widespread impact on so many people. We recognise that behaviours towards minority groups, including tangata whenua Māori, tangata Pacifica, women, people with disabilities, and people who identify as LGBTQ+, have caused particular harm. To these people, we acknowledge that you have been especially unfairly targeted. We believe that all people are made by God and loved by God, and you have at times been made to feel less than loved and even despised. For this, we are sorry. We are committed to ensuring our ongoing response addresses any abuse or behaviours that cause particular people to be subjected to harm. We also recognise that there are many other areas where churches have been part of people's experiences of abuse and harm. We know that people have been failed when they came to their church for support regarding abuse and harm they have experienced elsewhere, such as within their relationship or family, and their concerns were not responded to appropriately. Our churches should always have held the view that any and all abuse is unacceptable, and their response should have upheld your safety and dignity. The abuse of any person is unacceptable, but for people to have been abused when they were at their most vulnerable and when they were being connected with a Christian community or ministry is a particular failure. Jesus taught us that people in need deserve our utmost service and care. Our associated churches and aligned ministries failed to embody the love, safety, and justice that are at the heart of the gospel we profess to follow. We recognise too that these abuses were not only acts of profound personal betrayal, but also systemic failures in oversight, accountability, and compassion. For this, we are truly sorry. We as a union of churches must do better, and we are committed to doing better. This apology does not mark the end of our response. Instead, it acknowledges the journey we are beginning in earnest. We commit to learning from the past, listening to people who have experienced abuse, and undertaking meaningful reforms to ensure our churches are places where abuse is not accepted. We honour the courage of those people who have come forward and shared their stories. Your voices are helping to bring about truth, justice, and lasting change. We are committed to walking the long road of restoration with integrity, humility, and action. We, as the leadership of the Baptist Union of New Zealand, acknowledge that all leaders of our associated churches and our ministries take responsibility for the harm that has been perpetrated. We acknowledge that the leaders in these roles in our associated churches and our ministries, and those who assume these roles in the future, will be held accountable for the safety of people in churches that are part of the Baptist Union of New Zealand. We look forward in hope to creating communities where all people are safe and where trust in our churches and ministries can be restored through the actions we take. Signed on behalf of the Baptist Union of New Zealand, its associated churches and aligned ministries.